Well, welcome everybody to our very first KidMin leadership meeting together. My name is Chuck Pierce. I go by Pastor Chuckles. So I'm excited to be here with you guys. I tend to wander, so just get the head on the swivel, right? Because you're going to follow me all over the place. I'm excited to be here. So we got lots of things we're going to cover today. We're going to roughly follow the agenda, but it is kids ministry. So first we've got to start with some games. Yes, we have to start with games or else it wouldn't be kids ministry. So the first game we're going to do involves these awesome little balls right here. So what we're going to do is I'm going to toss these around. All right, so we've got to kind of toss these around. But first, let's pray. So we'll get started. We'll pray before we do games. Why not? Let's pray. You guys pray with me. God, I love you. I thank you for today. Oh, I love you, God. You're awesome. Jesus, I thank you for, God, who you are. Thank you for what you do. God, you're amazing. God, I pray that you would help us, God, today to learn some things. Help us to focus in on you. God, I pray that today, God, you would open up our hearts and our minds. God, I pray that you would, give us new ears to listen with. God, give us new creativity and vision. God, as we push together as a team, God, I pray you would open up our hearts, God, and fill us with love for the kids of this community. God, that you would break our hearts for those that are broken. God, that we would rejoice with the kids that succeed. God, and we would love everyone that you give us the opportunity to work with. God, I thank you for the calling that you have. God, and for the place that this church provides in this community. God, I pray that we would be a beacon of hope, God, in this world. God, I pray that you would be with me to this morning, God, as we speak. Help me to be clear in what I have to communicate. Help me to communicate with passion, God, and authenticity. God, I pray that you would anoint this time that we have. God, I love you. You're amazing. In Jesus' name I pray. Amen. All right. So, these are communication balls. Anybody ever seen a communication ball before? All right. So, what they are, y'all are so far back. What they are is you toss them around the room, okay? All right, so y'all knock them around the room a little bit, pass them one to another. Pass them. You got to be in a group. Oh, whoa! Fastball, that was incredible. 2, 3, go. The gorilla beats the man. Man beats the gun. Gun beats the gorilla. If you tie, you die. Ready? 1, 2, 3, throw. Oh, the super. Who's ever seen an Old West duel? An Old West duel. All right, so we're going to do a Nerf Wars Old Western duel today. So the way it's going to work is y'all going to go back to back in the middle of the stage here. All right, we're going to count out 5 paces. Ready? 1, 2, 3. Y'all taking big steps. 4, 5. Turn and fire. How about that? 4, turn and shoot. Ready? 1, 2, 3, 4. Turn and shoot. All right. So welcome, guys. Again, we like to have fun. Part of kids ministry is fun and games, right? So everything that we do should be fun. There should be some kind of fun element to it, right? Every event needs to have a balance of fun, message, and purpose. Okay, so there's a reason you do the event, the purpose that it plays for the church or for the organization, for the group, right? And there's also the fun element. It's the draw, the hook. It's what gets kids to want to come. If kids do not want to come to your element, we're missing something. All right? So there's a piece to that. And then there's got to be message. What makes us unique as the church is our message, right? And what is that message? That message is Jesus Christ crucified, risen from the dead for the forgiveness of sins. That message is the change in a life from before Christ to after Christ, right? That is our message. That's what we push with every single element that we do. Everything we do should have some kind of connection. All right, so today as we get into this, let me get my phone out here. I'm not even tracking. All right, connection failed. Here we go. All right, I'm on now. All right, so we did some icebreaker games and jump on. All right, and so now the question is, just who is, it looks terrible on there, should have tested my pictures first. Just who is Chuckles anyway? Who is Chuckles anyway? So you have heard a little bit about this mysterious, methodical Chuckles and what in the world does he do? Maybe y'all look me up. Who looked me up on YouTube? Anybody look me up on YouTube? has no idea what YouTube is? Okay, all right, so youtube.com, right? Then do a search for Pastor Chuckles. All right, can't miss me. You can see all the videos that we've done. Some of them don't make sense outside of the context, but we put them on there just because they're fun. But there's always crazy stuff to do. All right, so my philosophy, part of who I am, is that if you're not being crazy, if you're not being silly, then the kids, they might not want to connect with you as much, right? So that's part of who I am, right? I connect with kids through being crazy, through being silly, through being like out unexpected. I guess that's really maybe a better word, is unexpected, right? So when we talk about who Pastor Chuckles is, we talk about who I am, right? My name is Charles Michael Pierce, as my mom would say. And she said, I named him Charles, right? Took her a long time to get on board with Chuckles. But she's about there. It grows on you, I'm telling you. So I was born in the booming metropolis of Hobbs, New Mexico. This is funny because we always say that as a joke, but compared to Charlotte, it actually kind of is a booming metropolis. There's about 40,000 people that live there. 50 now. It's okay, it's closer to 50 now. When I grew up, there was like 30. It's grown a little. But so I grew up in church. My parents are Ed and Laquita Pierce, and they are outstanding people, amazing people. I am incredibly blessed to have the parents that I have. They raised me in church. They say I walked the aisle for salvation at like the age of 3. I don't remember it at all. So I can tell you that it didn't stick, okay? Because I know exactly when I really gave my life to Christ, all right? But that's the story, right? So grew up in church, did the church thing, Sunday school boy. I was in the church every time the doors were open. My dad was a board member. He was a children's worker. My parents always did KidMin. They still do KidMin now today. They've always had a heart for kids. My dad led boys programs for a time, even at a director level in the state of New Mexico. He's just passionate about kids. So I guess I come by it naturally then. But growing up as a kid, I knew what the church expected. I knew what people expected from me. And so I got really good at playing the game. I could show exactly what the church wanted. I could be the best church boy that anyone ever could find. But on the other side, I could also not. And as I grew up through middle school and even late elementary into middle school, I started to really live 2 separate lives. I had 2 separate sets of vocabulary. I had 2 separate sets of friends. I had 2 separate sets of attitudes and actions and everything. Right? And it all came to kind of a clashing battle, right? As the 2 worlds battled it out each other inside of me around my late middle school years into high school, right? Where I started to kind of lose the grip. Because the thing about sin is it eventually will find you out. The thing about living the double life is nobody is good enough at it that you'll never slip. You might be good enough 99.9% of the time, but sometime you're going to slip. Sometime. And so I began to slip. I began to fall. I began to get in trouble, and my 2 worlds were just not agreeing with each other. Got into doing a little drugs, got into doing some crazy stuff. And it really came to a point. I remember I got caught shoplifting one time, and it's super embarrassing. Man, super embarrassing. Because I told you about my parents, right? My mom is a pillar of a righteous woman of God in the community. She's amazing. I mean, it's probably some of you ladies are. I mean, she was just like, when you look at her, she is the example of what a woman of God should be. She had worked with Walmart for years. She had so many friends, relationships. And she had to walk her son through the halls of Walmart, from the front of the store to the back of the store, with a police escort, because I chose to steal something. And for me, man, it broke me. The realization that I was shaming my mom, who did nothing nothing to deserve it. She was everything. And so, it began a process for me. That time, and there was another time. I'll tell you a story right quick. We got time. I'll tell you a story. I gotten into gangster rap, right? Because I was a little thug. I thought I was hard. I threw the West Side, right? Thought I was a gangster. That was such a joke, man. So I thought I was hardcore, right? And so I had my Tupac, my Snoop Dogg, Dr. Dre CDs, and I was into it. And so, but again, eventually you slip up. My mom wasn't there. For some reason in my head, she was gone, when really she was asleep in another room. And so I put in Snoop Dogg, cranked it up, right? Doing my thing, and all of a sudden I hear her screaming across the house, right? So I go in there, I was like, what's up? She said, bring me that CD, right? And she's laying in bed. She didn't even get out of bed the whole time. This entire conversation happens with her laying in bed. And so I go get the CD out of my CD player, bring it to her, and just in this rage, she crushes the CD with one hand. I think it was left-handed. And she told me something that forever changed my life. She looked me square in the eyes and she said, Charles, Satan is leading you down a merry little road, and it is taking you straight to hell. And it cut me. It cut me deep. Of course, I was hard, right? I was a thug. I'm not going to let her see me cry. So I walked out the room, went to my bedroom, and I cried like a little girl. And I just broke right then. And it really started kind of set another one of several things that began the process of me changing the way I thought. And I came to the pastor of our church and I said, as a sophomore in high school, by this point, I said, hey, listen, I want to get involved in church. And I wasn't even really saved yet. I just wanted to change my life because I saw two lives. I saw where my life was headed by my friends that were doing life with me. They were starting to get into girls and sexual activity, and it wasn't a way that I wanted to go. More drugs, harder drugs, heavier drugs, more frequent drugs, alcohol, parties, and it just, as I looked at that and I looked at the end result, where that life is headed, I was like, this is not who I want to be. And then I thought, there's this church life that I don't really know, but I want to know. And so I started asking my pastor, I was like, what can I do to serve? And he said, just start praying and start coming around. That was his advice. Pray and come around, right? So I had a car. I was, independent to an extent. And so I'd just come up to the church. And that, kind of in the time, he started looking for a youth pastor for our church because we didn't really have anything like that. And hired in this guy named Sean Ambergy. And honestly, one of the reasons why I'm in ministry today is because of Sean Ambergy. Because Sean was an example to me. He taught me so much about life because Sean was so cool. Man, he was cool, right? He was awesome. And he taught me passion for God. He taught me how to be a man that loves Jesus. He taught me how to worship, taught me how to pray, he discipled me. He built me up. He spent time pouring into my life. And I remember, it was my sophomore year at some point. I don't remember exactly when it was. It was kind of in the fall, I think. And I'd driven out to this church called the Christian Center Church. And at that church, I'd come to a drama presentation. It's called To Die For. And at that drama presentation, I sit up in the balcony on that side over there, right? All by myself. I knew some people that were in the presentation is why I was there, but I didn't know hardly anybody that was in attendance. Okay, so I was sitting in the balcony all by myself, and they began to show this drama. And in this drama, there was a group of Christians that had gotten captured by a paramilitary organization. And they were anti-Christians, and they had given them the choice, denounce Christ or die. And there was a betrayal in the midst, and one of the group, he betrayed them all, and they made him pull the trigger and shoot all his friends as a as a kind of a guarantee that he wasn't just messing with them, right? It's really a punishment for him being in the room, and it just, the message of it just cut to me. I remember I was sitting down on the chair up there, and I was sitting up there, and they were giving the altar call. My legs just started to shake. I just couldn't stop them, right? And it was like so much. The lady beside me, she whispered to me, she was like, if you want to go down there, I'll go down there with you. And I was like, no, I'm good. And I just shaking. And all by myself, right there in the balcony, I accepted Christ. Wasn't anybody that led me to Jesus, wasn't anybody that gave me the sinner's prayer. It was just me. And I knew what it was. I knew what it was. I'd studied it. I could have led someone else to Christ. I knew the verses. I knew the path. I just hadn't believed it for me. And in that moment, my whole life changed. Everything changed, right? And so I had a big decisions to make, to say goodbye to a whole group of friends that were bad news. And so, I lost every friend I had pretty much. So I didn't like any of them church kids. They were weird, right? But I had to start to learn them a little bit, right? I had to start to get in with them a little bit because I had to change, because where I was going was no good. And so I started getting involved in youth ministry, learned to play bass in the youth band. It was fun. Learned to do drama. Started traveling, doing some presentations around, and so by the time I graduated, like my senior year in high school, I was leading Bible studies on campus. Right? I led a Bible study. It was called Youth Alive. It was a Bible study group on campus there. And it was really cool. We had like 40 kids coming at a time. It was really an awesome opportunity. But it's just the change. And so went on from there into a program called Master's Commission, where I learned servanthood, I learned discipleship, I learned how to work my tail off in a church. Because that's what we did the work of the pastors. So if you've never hung out with a pastor, especially on the build up to an event, you have no idea what the life of a pastor is. I would challenge you, come up here, hang out with some of the pastors before a big event. See how much time they put in. See how much go they have, right? How many late nights, I'm talking like midnight plus, that they're here, right? I had no idea that ministry was so intense till I went to Master's Commission. And it opened my eyes in a lot of ways. It taught me a bunch of things, right? So as I went on, from that point, I went to Master's Commission. I came back and I did a youth internship. I learned youth ministry, interned with a youth group, about 100 students. It was amazing. I learned a lot about student ministries. And then met my amazing wife, Jody. We got married 2006. I almost got in trouble there. I always get a little hazy on that one. Just because it's like, I don't know. There's a lot of dates rolling around in my head. But we got married in 2006. We were married for 11 years. And so it's been a process. It's been a process. We've been on staff as children's pastors at a couple of different churches, probably all told paid position staff about 5 years. Volunteer, maybe more like 7 years. Volunteer staff almost constantly since high school. So we've led, built, developed, ministries from basically high school on. So we're not new to ministry. We're new to Charlotte. We're new to the north. We're new to the east. So we're new to cold. But a lot of other things we're not new to. So whenever we do things, I want you to ask you to trust me a little. All right, trust me a little until I let you down, and then we can talk about it. All right, but that's my request to you guys. All right, is to give me the benefit of the doubt until it fails. All right, and then at that point, then we can look at how we can do it better. All right, because we've got some ideas, we've got some plans that might be out of the box. Yes, ma'am. Oh, okay, yeah, I didn't talk about education. I spent 12 years? 10 years. 12. I spent 12 years working on a 2-year degree. That was how I started school. After Master's Commission, I came back. I started at the junior college there in Hobbs, and I took some classes here and there, and then I dropped some classes here and there. Anybody got one of those degrees you're working on? Like you maybe haven't in a while. All right, so that was me, and I just, this is honestly the truth. The truth. When I went to Master's Commission, there was two groups of people. There was a group of people that said, go to Bible college, right? So you can learn the ministry. And there was a group of people that said, go to Master's Commission so you can live the ministry. All right? And so I went to Master's Commission so I could live the ministry. And then I was an intern so I could live the ministry. All my education and ministry was hands-on. It was taught at the feet of people who were doing it, right? And so that was my career path. Right? It was very much hands-on. And then, over time, I had kind of toyed with education just for the thought of a degree, not for any purpose, not any grand scheme, and that's really never been my drive. I've never been driven to a degree for a ministry, like entry into a ministry category, right? My education has always been about learning how to do ministry better. Right? So as I finally about 2014 decided, you know what? It's really kind of silly that I'm like one semester away from an associate's degree that I've never finished. So let's just finish that up. So I enrolled and I finished that out. We graduated. And at the same time, we had been working on a Bible school called Faith Bible Institute. And it's a Bible school that's hosted by churches. It's very interesting. It's a 3-year program, 3 hours a week, very intense, 16-week sessions, lot of learning, lecture by a guy named John Yates from a church in Monroe, Louisiana. And John Yates is my Bible knowledge hero. All right, just throw that out there. He's been teaching this course through the Bible in 3-year sections for 30 years, and just super intense. He writes all the course material, incredibly intelligent guy, very well studied, very well spoken. But so I'd finished up that, and at the same semester, I graduated from the junior college, and I received my diploma from Faith Bible Institute. And so I thought, well, I've done this and I've done that. Well, I wonder what they would transfer into. And so I started looking at Bible colleges. I thought, man, let's do this, we got some momentum now. Let's figure it out. And I found this school that was accredited and an accepted transfer from Faith Bible Institute. I thought, well, that's a good sign, right? They like my Faith Bible Institute that I love so much, and they're an accredited school, so their degree is legit, right? It's not just a piece of paper, and so I started talking to Baptist Bible College of Pennsylvania, and so got set up in them. Found out they would accept transfer of all my stuff up to 7 hours short of a bachelor's degree. Like I'd already completed everything except for 7 credit hours from a bachelor's degree. And that's 3 classes if you kind of want to do the math, all right? So maybe 2, depends on what you take. So I get to think, I was like, man, that's awesome. But bad news is they require 30 credit hours at their school for any degree they give. I was like, well, that's no good. I only need 7. And they said, hey, wait, we have an accelerated degree program. Said if you knock out those 7, you can move straight into master's level courses that will give you credit for your bachelor's level courses as you take them. And so you'll be able to complete the 30 hours for the bachelor's degree in the same time you do the master's degree. And I thought, well, that's pretty awesome, right? Because I'm feeling a little behind, it took me 12 years to do a 2-year degree. So, I need to catch up a little bit here into the educational game. And so I jumped in and started taking courses. And I'll tell you, the bachelor's level courses were about the same as my junior college courses. They weren't that hard. That first master's level course I took, it opened my eyes. It was like, dude, this is the hardest class I've ever taken in my life. I literally had to do vocabulary. Like I assigned myself vocabulary, and I wrote out all the words that they were using that I didn't know what meant. And I looked them up and I studied them because I was not ready for that level. But I did. I graduated. Actually, in a week, I graduate in a week in Pennsylvania with a bachelor's degree in church ministries and a master's of ministry degree, both with honors. Kind of exciting to say. So my bachelor's degree will be an honor graduate, and then master's degree will be cum laude. And so excited about that, about kind of where God's taken that. And now from there, where do we go? Where do we go? So we spent about the first half of our time talking about me, talking about that. But now let's talk about where are we going? What is new? What is going to change? What's going to stay the same? So as we jump in a little bit today, let's talk a little bit about philosophy of ministry. Why do we do what we do? Why are we even here? Right? So we're here to change the world. Literally, we're here to change the world. How do we do that? We do it one life at a time. One connection with a person at a time. Our goal, our passion, our vision, our drive as a church, and every ministry underneath that banner is to change the world, right? We are a life-changing organization. We have exclusive access to the words of life. We have the very words of God. And the story, the tale, the good news, gospel message of how he changed the world and he changed us and he can change you too. That is what our mission is. That's what our drive is. It's what gets us going in the morning, is the realization that we have something that the world needs. And if we don't give it to them, they're going to have to find it somewhere else. And how many other people are really going on mission to give them what they need? Not a lot, it seems. So it kind of makes it to where we're even in a more desperate needed situation, where we need people to be passionate about that. So how does that relate, that big, huge, overarching vision, how does that connect to a little Sunday school class on Sunday mornings? Well, it connects because you're here to reach kids. We're here to disciple children, right? And discipleship begins with salvation. It's the kickstart, right? Anybody ever push-started a car? That's what I think of salvation and discipleship. You get it running, you throw it in gear, boom, right, it goes up, right? It's a really cool process if you've ever done it. It's when you think about discipleship, it's like you got to get them started somewhere, some way, and that comes through relationship. Every single person that accepts Christ, it starts with them seeing something that they want. In my experience, I got to qualify that because there's probably some who didn't know a single Christian, and God just says, showed him to them and started a movement in an area where there was no Christians. But every person that I've ever led to Christ, it began with some kind of connection. It began with a message that was spoken, and they sat in the audience and they connected with the person delivering the message. And they started asking questions. Or it began with a relationship where over time they started to see Jesus in me or in someone else. And they started asking questions about it. And eventually came to the saving knowledge of Christ. So when we talk about why we do ministry in the church, specifically here, right? Why do we do ministry here? Because they're still lost here. There's still people who don't know Jesus in Charlotte, in Lansing, in all the surrounding areas that I don't know their names yet, right? Pottersville, I know that one. All right. So in all these areas, right, there's people that need Jesus. They need the message. Why else would we do church? Well, to build up and disciple the people that we have here. Right? Because your neighbor, you yourself, you need support from other Christians. Why? So you can love life a little better and be a better Christian? Not really. It's good. That's a benefit, a side effect. But why you need other Christians so they can motivate you to go do the work of the ministry. Right? As a pastor, my job is to equip you guys to go be the church in the community. Our job, Pastor Chuck, Pastor Jim, it's our job, right, to make you so excited, so passionate, so equipped, right, that you can go out and you can change the world. Because every single person in here knows people that I don't know. You have relationships with people that I don't have. And when it comes to kids, you have years of investment that I don't have. And so you guys are the change agents. You guys are the ones that make things happen, right? So that's why we do what we do, is because we're here to change the world, one life at a time. Be it a little life, a big life, an old life, a young life, one life at a time. That's why we do what we do. Now, what about the vision for here? Right? Because every church kind of has their own niche. They have their own thing that they're after. I can tell you FBC Charlotte is after discipleship, is after missional living. That is where we are. That is where we are going. As a church, we are headed down this interstate of missional living. And what that looks like is you in the community with people that don't know Jesus, being a friend, so you can make a friend, so you can lead a friend to Christ. That's what missional living is all about. But what the benefits, the side effects of missional living are about you getting excited, you getting passionate as you see God doing stuff. Because who's ever, I don't know if this, don't be embarrassed, okay? Don't be embarrassed, right? Don't let this be weird. But if you've ever, well, just say, if you've ever led someone to Christ, I was going to ask who's ever led someone, but I thought it might be weird, right? If you've ever personally led someone to Christ, you know what it's like to walk away from that and you just feel pumped about it, right? You feel pumped about it. And I can tell you as a pastor, whenever you get to baptize that person, it's even better. Because it's like you followed through and it's done, right? I don't know what the culture is here, but in New Mexico, a lot of times we'll let dads baptize their kids, and I think that's super cool. I love that idea, right, of just the connection there. And so whenever you get to follow through with the life change of somebody, man, it gets you excited, it gets you passionate, it makes you want to do more. It makes you want to tell more people. It makes you want to be more creative, more bold in your witness. All right, so as we look at the future of FBC Charlotte, what we're looking at is we're looking for changes like that. We're looking to change lives, energize people, and thus change our community. Right? That's where we're headed. Now, what about specifically in the children's department? Because, that's not always the same. Right? We need something specific for us. I can tell you, our vision going forward is going to be about reaching kids that don't currently come here. We like our kids. We love our kids. I don't know any of your kids. I'm sorry. I've met a few. I want to know all the kids here. I want to get to know them. And I pray that God would give me a heart, a passion, a burden for them, right? That I could love them like a shepherd loves his sheep. Right? And that's where I'm praying that God leads me. But really, really top priority for me is to go get the ones that don't come to church. Go get the ones in the community that they don't have a Christian example. They don't have a connection to God. They don't know Jesus. They don't know the power of life, the purpose of living. They think life is just to enjoy life until you die and then it's over. Maybe have some crazy experiences along the way. Right? They're totally clueless on the big picture of life. That we exist to bring credit and glory to an almighty God. And that by our lives lived passionately for him, we get to live a life that is 1 billion times better than anything without him. That's the hope of Christ. And so as we look at going forward, every ministry, every event, every activity will be focused on pulling people in from outside the church. we're going to be trying to get them to come to our kids ministry, right, which will be Kids4Christ. We'll talk about that in a minute. We can get them coming to our Sunday school classes so they can learn and develop relationships with adults, mentoring them. We're going to get them coming to big events like Nerf Wars, which we got coming up next month. We're going to get them coming to big events like Vacation Bible School and connecting them to that. We're going to connect those that come to our community events like Upward Basketball, right? We're going to connect those families to the church so that we can, that's the goal. That's the goal. Now, how do we do it? We do it in a billion different ways. We do it in every single event asking the question, how do we connect the community? That's got to be a question. How do we connect the community? Right? And so if you're a Sunday school teacher, right, or you're a nursery leader, and I want you thinking about how do I present what I'm going to present to these kids in a way that if a kid has never seen a Bible before, doesn't know the name of Jesus, that they'll enjoy it just as much as the kids who do. It's a change of thinking, right? But it's the direction we have to go because we have to do children's ministry expecting lost kids here with us. Because if all we ever have is the same 15 kids in our building, we will never change the world. We need to get more kids engaged, excited, passionate about God, right? We get them the message. It doesn't always have to happen here. We can take the message out there. But everything we do has to include the concept. What do we do about the community? How do we get them on board? Right? Does that make sense? Okay, so let's talk a little bit about reminders. It's kind of a housekeeping thing. All right, so we have a schedule, and I had dropped the ball on something. But it's tough to try to throw a meeting in a week here. But I did forget something. I intended to have a list of vacancies that we have coming up for the month of May, right, in ministry positions for rotation spots. So I don't have that, but we'll communicate that to you. Okay. Who's here that did not receive an email from me this week? Did everyone receive an email from me? Okay, if you did not and you have an email address, could you please contact me? So come up to me afterwards or send me something, some way, right? Contact me so I can get your name and your email address added to my list of people. Okay, because I sent out a blanket email to the names that I had, and so I'll send out in that list, I'll send out an email with all the vacancies that we need people to step up and say, okay, I got that. Right? I'll cover that one too. Okay? So now when we look at scheduling, right, we have a lot going on. We have 2 services plus Sunday school. So really there's 3 separate service events that we have every single week. Inside of those time slots, we have elementary ministry, we have nursery, and preschool. So there's a bit going on with that. So there's a lot to fill in every single slot. And there's some caveats to that. I don't think in the first service there's no preschool or something along that line. I'm still learning the schedule. But in those slots we have people, right? So what I would ask from you, and the fact that you're here means you're probably a superstar, just honestly, right? If you've never been told you're a superstar, I want you to take your hand. Everybody take your hand, put it like this, turn it at the elbow, reach back, now pat yourself on the back. Okay, right? Congratulations, you're a superstar. All right? So, welcome to the Superstar Club. Now, as superstars, it's part of our job to go above and beyond. Okay? It's part of our job to be on top of things and help spread the word to others who are maybe not quite as superstars as they could be yet. All right? So when we look at schedule, our schedule is the most difficult thing that we have to manage. Because it's always changing, it's always growing, it's always fluxing, there's always people dropping and adding and everything else. What helps us from an organizational standpoint the very most is if you own your spot. If you own your spot. So whenever we assign something or we schedule something and you agree, you say, awesome, I love the schedule, I'm there, right? From that point on that you own that little block on the paper. And if you can't be here, Take the initiative, call someone else on the page and say, hey, can you take my spot? right? Because what's been happening a lot, and probably again not by you guys because you are superstars, but what's been happening a lot is people just call the church and be like, oh, can't make it. And now the church, we're like, oh my goodness, what do you know where your spot is? And so we're trying to find your spot. We're trying to find who else is in the spot, trying to call like 5 different numbers and put them in the spot in the last minute. And with everything else going on, what would make that so much smoother and so much better, and really what we expect from our volunteers, is that you could own your spot enough to try to fill it. Now, if you call everyone on the list and nothing's happening, then by all means call us and we'll help you. We'll help you fill it. But take the initiative first to try and fill your own spot if you're not going to be here. And then also, if you know you're going to be late, even if it's like, just the morning before, call somebody. Call myself, call Miss Mandy, call Miss Jody, right? You'll get access to all of our numbers if you don't have them. Call somebody and say, hey, this came up. You don't have to give us all the details. Just say something came up. I'm going to be 5 minutes late. Or, man, I'm sorry, but it's looking like I'm not going to be there at all. Right? But the sooner you can possibly make that phone call, the better it will be for us as a staff, but more importantly, for the kids that we minister to. Because when we think about this rotational coverage, what's the purpose of you being here? You're here to change lives, right? You're here to change the world. So we look at that as our vision, as our mission, as our goal. We look at that as the direction that we're pushing forward, right? Then we have to understand that our Sunday school time slot is important. And having an adult there that's passionate about kids matters. And so whenever we're not going to be there, we should feel the weight of that. We should feel like there's a void in our church. Where we need to fill that hole with somebody else that's passionate about it so they can take the message forward. Because you never know who's going to show up. You never know what kids are going to be there that don't know Jesus. It might just be the same kids you've been working with since they were in 3rd grade. But it might be they brought a friend. And that friend doesn't know Jesus. And that friend doesn't have any adults in their life that care about them as a person or about their future as a person, as a being, right? Okay? It's about their eternal future. And you have the opportunity. So when we look at not being here, take it like it's a big deal, because we don't underestimate you. You doing ministry with our kids, or with the kids, our kids globally, our kids, right? As a group, our kids, right? It is just as important as Pastor Chuck standing on this stage and delivering the word of God to the adults. It is every bit as important. Because you are a minister of the gospel when you step into that classroom. And whenever you connect with a kid, it's just like him standing here and connecting with an adult on a stage, from the stage to an audience. Same thing. All right? So, so as we look at that, try to remember why you do what you do. Right? And hopefully that will help you be really super motivated. And the real challenge to our superstars in here, spread this message. Spread it out to everyone else. Now, if you're watching on video and you're not here, you can still be a superstar. I'm not saying you're not a superstar. I'm going to clear that with the camera right quick. Okay? I'm just saying the people here probably are. All right? You probably are too. But maybe not. I'm just kidding. All right, so let's move on. Let's talk about what's new. What is new? There's a lot of new, right? Who thinks there's a lot of new in the church right now? A lot of new, lots of new, a lot of new staff people, I can tell you that. Your staff has drastically changed over the past 6 months. Drastically changed. And I'm excited to be part of that change. I'm really, as sitting in Hobbs, one of the things that really kind of was a clincher for me to say, yes, I want to go uproot my family, uproot my animals, uproot my life, and move all the way across the country, because I sensed that God was bringing people, that he was bringing Ryan, he was bringing Adam, he was bringing Jim, he's bringing all these people together, right, to join this rock-solid pastor of Chuck Snyder. And this team that God is building together and the church that is crazy enough to make such changes so fast has to be passionate about the direction that God is going. And so whenever I said and I looked and I thought, you know what? I want to change the world. And these people are fixing to do it. So that was one of the motivators for me. It says, I want to be part of this. It's worth changing everything for. So I hope that you guys, you didn't change everything, right? But that doesn't mean nothing to you. What it means to me is that I've got to earn this for me, right? I need to work my tail off. I need to be so passionate about God that for me, it's like God says, yes, this is it. This is the passion. This is the go, right? Okay. So for me, I'm a little bit result oriented. Now, I know I was talking to Pastor Jim just yesterday, and he was telling me that something that just really was kind of awesome. He said, God is more interested in who you become from being here than he is in what you do while you're here. And that really kind of, lifted some burdens a little bit, that mindset. But at the same concept, I want to change the world. And I believe it is God's direction to change the world. And I believe this team is working that way. All right, so as we look at changing the world together, right, understand that things are going to have to change. And I know you've gone through a lot of change, and I applaud you as a church for being flexible, because it's those rigid church people that don't want to change anything ever. Do they change the world? Not very often. It's the ones that say, you know what, it might or might not be my comfort zone, it might or might not be my preference, but it's the will of God because he loves people. And I love God, and I show God my love by the way I love people. And so because I love people, I'm willing to do whatever God leads us to do. And that's what I sense from this church, is the overwhelming majority is like, let's do this. Let's go, right? Let's go. And so as we go, we're going to have a little bit of changes. So let me kind of tell you a little bit more about my heart. I do not want to be the guy that just comes in and be like, okay, we had success in New Mexico, and so every single thing we did in New Mexico, we're now going to do in Michigan, right? That's not how I do ministry. Now, there were successes in New Mexico. There was a lot of things that God blessed as he led us to do them. But that does not mean that it's going to be exactly the same here. But what we will do is we will take the concepts and the experience and the knowledge that we learned, and we'll apply it to ministry here. And there will be some things that are the same, but there will be we're not just going to force ministry into a new box that doesn't fit. Right? So I just want to let you guys know that. My goal is not to wreck everything you have going on because I can. My goal is to hone and fine-tune and build up and equip and maybe change if it needs to be changed. All right? And so as we look at ministry, a lot of it's going to stay what it is for a time. A lot of it's going to be what it has been. The only major change we're making right now is how we do elementary ministry. Right? And so welcome to Kids4Christ. This is where Kids4Christ comes in. All right? Kids4Christ is going to become two things. Number one, it's going to be kind of the all-encompassing global name for children's ministry at First Baptist Church. And then beyond that, it's going to be specifically a title and an identity for our elementary ministry that happens on Sunday mornings in both services. Okay? Both services are going to get the exact same treatment, the exact same support. As we grow, both services will grow, right? I know a lot of the attenders, I hear them talking about their service versus the other service, and I think that's cool. I like that you own your service, but at the same time, we're all one church, right? We're all going in one direction. So we're all unified together. Regardless if you come to the 8:30 experience, the 11 o'clock experience, if you just come to Sunday school, right? We're all one church. We go together. Okay, so for kids ministry, Kids4Christ is our elementary education. That includes upper and lower elementary. So it'll be the time slot for that. And so it's going to be changing. It's going to be changing a lot. And the reason for that is because I believe kids need structure. Not that you don't have structure, but they need a structure that resembles something. Because as we're growing these kids and they're learning to be Christians, they're learning to be God's followers, right? And so what do we do when we come to church, right? We come and we hear a message from God, right? Through the pastor, from his word. What else we do? We worship together, collectively. Right? We sing songs of praise. We connect our heart to God, and we feel that empowerment as we do it. Right? We have a time that we give, and we're intentionally faithful about giving the tithe and giving the offerings and sacrificing what we want for the betterment of the kingdom of God. Right? So those are some of the key core elements of service. Well, wouldn't it make sense that we teach the kids those same key core elements? So in the new Kids4Christ service model, we will do worship. We will do a dynamic Bible message. We will give offering, have time to teach children how to give sacrificially, how to do that, right? And it's going to be probably a lot of the same elements you've already done. I've said in a few services, so I kind of know the flow of them, but it's going to be in a totally different way. It's going to be crazy stage games, and it's going to be high energy music, and it's going to be kids in rows, not around tables. All right. So as we kind of think about just a little bit of changes, and we launch that on May 7th, it's next Sunday, a week from tomorrow. We're kicking it off with a series called Roller Coaster Life, talking about the ups and downs in life as we follow people like Elijah. Who went from the bottom to the top to the bottom again, up and down in life, and everything he did was crazy, right? He was either on the mountaintop or he was in the valley. You know, he went from standing before the king of Israel, speaking the words of God, to running for his life from the queen of Israel, right? He went from having it all to having nothing. And so we're going to see the ups and downs in life. And so what changes a little bit with our Sunday school is going to be over time, right? Sunday school is going to be over time. We got new curriculum, right, that we'll be implementing on the 7th. And basically what it is, it's going to be a reinforcement of the main lesson. Okay, so you think about, instead of thinking about Sunday school as a totally separate service than the two worship services, think about them all together. Think about one worship service and Sunday school as a large group and small group element of the same service. So the idea is that kids come to a small group element and stay for a large group, or they come to a large group and stay for a small group, right? To where they're getting the full package if they come to both. But if they just come to the large group, they're still getting the message. That's the way that our curriculum is designed. That's the way that we run it. And so small group is going to be the same story, the same Bible event that they studied in large group. And that seems kind of weird. And who thinks that's kind of weird, right? Because the kids are going to be like, we just heard this, right? Okay, you're going to have that. Kids are going to be telling you the story because they were there for the first experience, right? They were there for the large group. They know what happened. All right, and so they'll tell you about it. But the benefit of it is in a smaller group environment, more one-on-one, you can take them deeper. You can ask them questions. You can get them to interact with you. So we're going to encourage that. We're going to encourage you to pray with the kids. Find out what their needs are. Build relationships that I can't build from the stage. Right? So when someone stands on stage, it's really hard to connect with those in the audience in a real way. Right? I mean, you can give message, they can hear a message, they can respond to message, but there's no interaction. So that's the benefit of a large group and a small group. Is in the large group we get the high energy, we get the games and the fun and the craziness, crazy characters that people are so fascinated with. Right? So we do crazy characters. We've got a crazy character. Believe it's going to be a puppet. We're shooting for a puppet. We do puppets, right? So if you like puppets, we do puppets. So this puppet is going to be called Rush Rapido. And Rush is an adrenaline junkie. adrenaline junkie. He does everything he can do to get the highest adrenaline kick. He's one of those puppets that like fly all over the puppet stage. He might fly up in the air a time or two. Who knows? Depends on how he goes. But so we got Rush going to come, and Rush is really cool. And our characters every week are really cool because they reinforce the lesson in a creative way, right? They put a real life intention on it. So that's coming up. Let's see, what else we got here? New service roles. Okay, so how do you fit into that, right? So, we talk about stage games, we talk about stuff like that. How do you, if you're currently a leader in the elementary group, there's a block of you guys, how do you fit into that? Well, two ways. Number one, we got new roles that are opening. Right? We need people that do games. We need people that want to teach a little connection. If you want to be a puppet, you want to be a character, you want to be the straight guy, which by that I mean the more serious one, right? That you want to be the more serious one that connects with the crazy guy, being the puppet or the character. Then we need that. We need people who can just, and if your sense of humor is just super dry, you're even better to be opposite of the crazy guy. All right, it's even better. All right, so because they'll add the crazy and you add the balance, and it's perfect. Kids will love it. All right, so there's roles like that. But if you're like, hey, I just kind of want to be more behind the scenes. I don't want to be on stage. I don't want to be leading, from a stage because that's way too in the front, right? I understand. Miss Jody's the exact same way. She does not like to be on the stage. She does awesome in the background. She's an amazing, amazing servant and behind the scenes coordinator. So if that's more of you, we need people to build relationships with kids. And you might think, like, man, that's not that important. It is super important. It is exactly what we do, right? We build relationships so we can change the lives of kids. Okay, so as we think about that, as we look forward, right, we need people that, like we talked about in the meeting. Who was in the meeting on Wednesday night? Who was here? Anybody not here? Okay, all right. So the ones that were here, right? I talked about a concept of kids ministry called Own Your Row. All right, and so that idea is that we need adults that are in the rows with kids, and it could be multiple rows, it could be a section, right, however it works out, but they own that, right? They bring little candies for the kids, put them on their seats, or they follow up with the kids, they kind of make them their own little church, right, where you choose to shepherd a group of kids. Right, and by that, when we talk about shepherding, we're talking about you caring for them, you developing them, you protecting them. All right. So with that, you sit with them, you do the things with them. All right. So we got to keep moving because I'm going to run out of time if I don't. But so that's coming up, and I encourage you just to come see, come experience, come feel. All right. See how the new environment feels now, but see it with eyes of growth. Okay, because if you look at the changes to the new concept and you only see 5 kids in the room, which there might be on May 7th, or 10 kids in the room, which there might be on May 7th, you're not going to see the power of the change. But if you imagine that room with 15, 40, 80 kids in it, then you'll understand the concept, because that's where we're going. We're not going to stay with the 5, 10 kids. It's going to grow. I guarantee you it's going to grow. Because we as a church are passionate about going out and finding those that are lost, building relationships and bringing them into community. So as we do that with adults, as we do that with teenagers, as we do that with kids, through various programs, various life groups, we are going to collect and attract more and more and more kids, right? So we will be growing. So come and see with that in mind. Let's see, you talked about that. Okay, so on to looking forward. Coming soon. We have outreaches that are coming soon. One of the things we've got planned on the schedule so far is we're doing a Nerf Wars pizza party for upper elementary. So when we say upper elementary, we mean 4th, 5th, 6th graders, boys and girls. Okay, we're doing a Nerf Wars event here at the church. We're going to have pizza party, Nerf Wars. We're going to challenge and encourage the kids. Invite your classmates. Invite your classmates. We're going after their classes. So I'm going to challenge every single kid that I see between now and then to go to school, right, specifically this Sunday, and then the next Sunday. I'm going to challenge them, go to school and find every single kid in your class and talk to them about Nerf guns and talk to them about pizza. And once you get them excited about talking about Nerf guns and talking about pizza, then you say, hey, at this church, there's a Nerf Wars and pizza party. You got to come, right? And so we're going to try to get all kinds of kids coming, right? And so our goal is if we have 10 kids, if we have 100 kids, whatever it ends up being, right, we're going to have a ton of fun. And it's going to be awesome, and the kids are going to love it, right? And they're going to be talking about it, and they're going to go back to school, and they're going to be like, dude, you should have came. It was so cool, all right? And so now, so we don't leave out the younger ones, because I like younger kids too. Lower elementary, we're going to do a different style event for them. It's going to be a barbecue in the park with playground and kites and field games. We don't have that one on the calendar just yet, but it's coming. So that's coming up. You'll see the Nerf Wars one in the bulletin. I don't have a date just on top of my head, but it's in May. It's going to be the Friday night after Mother's Day, whatever date that is. All right, so maybe we'll get that coming up in a second. But 19th. Okay, so the 19th of May is when our Nerf Wars pizza party is, and then sometime before school gets out, we'll do the exact same concept with the lower elementary, just in a different venue. So moving on from that, life groups. Life groups are the new hot thing for FBC, right? Everything is talking life groups, life groups, life groups, life groups. Okay, so life groups affect kids ministry too. We're going to be looking to build life groups out of our numbers here, right? We're like, hey, you love kids, I love kids. Let's come hang out and have a barbecue and talk about how much we love kids. All right, okay, that's going to kind of happen. We're going to build life groups around our upward ministry. Right? And so now when we talk about Upward, from what I understand, Upward has kind of always been its own thing. And it just kind of hangs out on the side, and children's ministry exists over here, and Upward exists over there. So it's kind of like you got Upward, children's ministry, youth ministry, and there are no ways do they cross paths, right? Okay, so now we're going to push to cross paths. Upward is coming under the umbrella of Global Kids4Christ ministry. Okay, because Upward reaches kids, right? Kids4Christ reaches kids. Okay, so Upward comes under Kids4Christ. Okay, so now by doing that, what we do is we connect people, right? When we look at ministries for our church, we look at life groups. Life groups. Now, when we talk about life groups, let me take a second and reinforce this life group concept. Okay, life groups is very simple. It's just a community of people that do life together. And in they're doing life, they're intentional about doing one thing, and that is making friends with people who do not already come to church, who do not already have a connection to God. Okay, so your group of friends could be a lot of different groups of friends, but every life group will eventually develop a mission where they're after a specific targeted audience. So we'll have life groups that'll develop, and then they will say, hey, Upward is starting. Our mission is going to be to go hang out at Upward basketball games. And what I think would be super cool is part of this Upward-focused life group would be like, hey, we got 5 couples in our life group, right? Dynamics could be whatever. We'll say 5 couples, right? What if each couple adopted a team from the Upward season? And that couple kind of hung out, and they went to practice with the kids, met the parents, right? When it came time for game time, they showed up, and they were the cheering section. Not you have to be there every week, but you're around enough that you build relationships. And then the whole group, when they come and they meet together, they talk about Upward. They talk about basketball. They talk about how they've made this connection, and they think it's really cool. And, oh, I met this parent. Oh, yeah, I know that parent. He was at the game, And then you got, like, maybe the 2 couples, like, on opposing teams cheering for the other team. And that just builds that camaraderie, right? You got a little rivalry going between inside of your group. You're like, oh, my team's so going to beat your team, right? So there's a lot of fun that can develop out of that. And that's the purpose, or really kind of the side effect of doing life as a community on mission together, is that you, as a side effect, you have fun. You get to do awesome, fun stuff. All right? So let's move on from that. Last thing on our agenda today is my boy Tim. This is Tim number 1, in case you haven't met my friend Tim number 1. Tim is going to do a demo of a big change that's coming, right? Who knows what Rock RMS is? Who's ever heard the term Rock RMS? Okay, Rock RMS is launching like right now. It's kind of in the process of being rolled out in various forms. And Rock RMS is our church management software. It's a global software that manages a whole bunch of different aspects of the church. Now, what is specific to children's ministry is the check-in feature of Rock. All right, so Tim's going to talk a little bit about what's coming for check-in. What's new? All right, kind of what it'll look like. We're going to walk you through a little bit of what does check-in look like for the kids. When they come to check in, what's the experience like? If you got a new kid coming, that kind of stuff, right? How does that all work? You got that one? Okay.
Yep. I think, thanks, Jim. You got that on mute. How am I going to follow your act?
Dude, I just talk, man. I need some notes.
I live on coffee. Is my understanding you don't?
Monster energy drinks.
Monster, okay. Well, just looking around the room, I think everybody here knows me. If not, I'm Tim Patterson. My lovely wife is back there. I know everybody knows her, Danielle.
He's Tim number 1.
I'm Tim number 1. So what we're going to do, I'll try not to bore you today. I know it's kind of hard to read up there, but basically we've been kicking around some ideas on how to improve the nursery check-in process. I know it's been a problem, process, education, that sort of thing. And I'll just share some of the ideas that we're looking at moving forward. None of these are set in stone yet, and we're definitely open to evolving these ideas as time goes on, especially now that we have Chuckles here to help us out. So basically, from the top, number 1 is we want to avoid people off the street from having to come in and figure out a computer system that they've never seen before. That's not friendly for a new family who's here for the first time, or perhaps even just visiting from out of town with some relatives. Careful. So along those lines, our first idea is to turn the computer systems around. We want the volunteers to be running the check-in, and that's going to open the door for a couple other things. Number 1, we have planned to have things like medical alerts and security alerts to be able to be tied to a particular family or set of individuals. So for example, if Chuck is allergic to bee stings, we need to know that. If somebody is not supposed to be picking up a particular child, we need to be aware of that too. And the way that we kind of envision things working from here are that each child, the volunteer will check in a child, which I'll kind of walk you through that process here in a second, but then a label will be printed out for each child, similar to what we have done in the past. The child will wear said label, but the label can be completely customized. So we can have little icons for specific things like bee stings or peanut allergies, security alerts, things like that, just little icons on the label itself, so the volunteers know what to look for on those labels. Again, it will have the child's name, and the parent will get a master label. Kind of want to move away from barcodes a little bit, and I think you'll see why, just to streamline the process a little. Barcode scanners are sometimes picky, and they don't always work, and we want to optimize things as best as possible. With the technology system, though, it's also important that people know how to add visitors, how to add new families, and we want that to be easy and inviting. We don't want it to be, oh, this new family has shown up and we have no idea how to put them into a system. That just looks bad from every perspective involved. So what you see here, and I do apologize, it's a little small, but this is basically the screen you'll see as a volunteer working behind the nursery check-in desk. Or for Kids4Christ check-in. That's another thing we're discussing, is where else do we need check-in stations and how to man them, where to put them, that sort of thing. So it's kind of a moving target still, but we have some ideas. So you can just search by the first couple letters of the last name, hit next. And what's cool about this system is it will show you the family dynamic. So you can see on the left-hand side of the screen, it's got my family, myself, my wife, my 3 little girls. This check-in station that I'm demoing would only be for the nursery area. So it's intelligent enough to pick out Amelia and Violet for preschool and the nursery, but yet leave Molly out because she's old enough now. She's in the elementary kindergarten program. So from a check-in perspective, it automatically populates the people that you'll be checking in. If you're not checking somebody in, it's as simple as just clicking on them, and then it will gray out like that. Yes. Yes. Yep. So we've done our best to gather information on all of our children. This whole project, this check-in is just a module off of a bigger project that we're doing church-wide to kind of consolidate our information. So we've had adult information in like a membership plus program, DOS-based, ancient, not even maintained anymore, that we're bringing into this ROC RMS system. I think we might start calling it FBC Connect. But we're also bringing in the children information from the old check-in system that we had. But the problem with that is some data was missing. So as we start to launch this, we're going to come up with some kind of process. Maybe it's a one-time form we have somebody fill out and leave with us, or what. But really the information we need on our children, our first name, last name, age, and grade. School would be preferable to help track them down, but it's not necessary, especially for children that are just visiting or new to the church, that sort of thing. But really the age and grade are what help determine where children go and how we track them in our system. And at the end of a school year, we can automatically promote, that sort of thing. But yes, age is calculated dynamically based on birth date. So here you have the 2 people. If we brought, for example, my niece Olivia along to church, you can just hit add visitor, first name, last name, date of birth, gender, and ability or grade level. We also have a special needs flag that we could enable if we get to that point, where we can keep track of any kind of special needs the child may have. It's just as easy to add a person to an existing family. Let's say somebody just had a little baby, go ahead and add them in, and that will permanently add them into the family dynamic. Backing up a step, if I search for somebody that doesn't exist, no results. Okay, as a volunteer, just go new family, first name, last name, same sort of screen. You hit save, and away you go. So it's that easy to add a new family. And once you do that, it's saved in our system. And that's going to open up a couple other doors that tie into other places of ministry now. So we have a new family off the street. They bring their kids into our children's ministry. We can have that fire off things like a workflow internally in our church that says, hey, Pastor Chuck, hey, Chuckles, hey, Jim, we have a new family in our church. Let's reach out to the parents. Let's reach out to the family, see how their experience was, lift them up. We can have our outreach committees start stopping by their homes. Whatever we decide to do, we can automate these reminders and these alerts saying, hey, we had somebody new here. Let's take action on it. Yep, and we can have it notify staff internally. We can also have it send an email address to the family directly if we capture that information at time of check-in. Right now, it's just children's names. Yep. I would like to see parents' names get added there. So like I said, this is just kind of a demo right now, but we definitely want parents' names, especially as we start to work with like the Safety and Security Committee. We want to make sure that the parents' names are captured. We also want to start capturing photos of our children and of the parents. That way, as a volunteer, you're not going to know everybody as we grow. You'll be able to see, yes, this person checked the child in, yes, this person is allowed to check the child out, and you can see their pictures on the screen as you do so. And I'll show you a screen as to what that looks like here in a second. So I'll go ahead and complete the check-in. So I searched for Patterson, came up with my two young ones, and I'll just hit this next button. And this is just a confirmation screen. At this point, if a printer was hooked up, it would automatically have printed out all the barcodes. You don't have to click anything else. But this just says, okay, Amelia is going into the preschool room, Violet is going into the nursery. And it's automatically calculated based on their age, grade, and the schedules that we've defined. So like first service, if there is no preschool, they'll all get lumped into one section. From this point, you just hit the arrow, and you're ready to check in the next family. We want it to be simple and easy to use. Now on the checkout screen, when it's time to check children out, the screen looks a little different, and this screen will change. Let me just refresh the web page here. I know it's really hard to see here, but Amelia does have a picture that I just took the other day. She's got chocolate cereal all over her face. But you're able to see all the children that are checked into the system, no matter which check-in station they used, and where they're at. So you can see, okay, Amelia's in the pre-K, Violet's in the nursery, that sort of thing. So like in the case of emergency, or we have to evacuate due to a fire, something like that, you can actually pull up this page on any kind of smartphone, tablet, any kind of device, and get this complete list to know where the children are at any point in time. What I want to change with this screen is I want to add in photos of the people that are allowed to pick the children up. That's coming. We're just wrapping up a little bit of a code change for that. But you'll be able to see all the photos to check somebody out. Let's say Violet was throwing a fit, which she never does, and and we need to check her out. So you just go ahead and hit the red X. It does ask to confirm. We want that in there so you don't just misclick somebody and then be like, who did I just check out? So you can see she's been checked out, and then at the end of the day, you will actually be left with an empty roster. That way you know every child has been checked out. A question? If we needed to. That's something that we'll... Yeah, we'll definitely address that. I want it to be hands-off, so yes, the parent will not have to come back down. We'll get that part figured out. I'm still kind of like Chuckles, learning the schedules myself. I've always looked at things from a technology point of view, but we'll definitely address that. And like I said, this is just a demo. This is the direction that we're heading. There's obviously some more tweaks we want to make along the way, but I've taken a lot of the feedback that we've heard from the older system and kind of improved on that, and also worked with safety and security a little bit to try to optimize this whole process, and I'm definitely open to any ideas that Chuckles has as well. Yes. So, yep. Yep, that's correct. So every parent will be given a ticket. Very similar, it will have a number on it, a 2-digit number. So if a parent needs to be paid during service, it'll appear in that little black box over the piano. That part won't change, and that will be printed on the parent's ticket. The parent's ticket will have a master list of all the children that they have checked in, and they have to present that ticket on the way back out. Now, as a volunteer, you really don't have to use that ticket for anything. I mean, it's a token. You get the token, you get a child. But you don't have to work and fight with the barcode scanner. The barcode idea is cool, but it really does slow things down. I mean, going back to like the checkout screen, you've got a master list. You can see everybody on the master list. So really, you just look at that ticket, see the names, look at this list, and you can see their photos. that sort of thing. So you're able to pick them out pretty quickly. And on the check-in screen, I mean, it's really as simple as typing 3 letters, or we can base it on a phone number. You can search either way. But it comes up that quick, it'll print, and life is good.
Right, and so the theme of this is how it's all themed and it looks real cool, and like that can be applied to the whole thing, right?
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
it's
Yeah,
and then what about,
we
like-
can change the look any way we want.
right.
so-
What about like text message contacting? Can we get the system to send text to people?
Yes.
Because I know as we talk about studies and we talk about research, and we want to be understanding, right? And so like we discussed in the meeting on Wednesday, is that the overwhelming majority of guests feel awkward in a meet and greet time. It's also true that guests don't like that. If parents in general, right? Yeah. Yeah, parents in general don't like that because it's like advertising to the church. Like if you know what it is and you see a number, or you can look around and be like, whose kid's the bad kid, And you got to wait for the parents to awkwardly get up and take the walk of shame out the back of the church, So a text message is much, much easier. So can the system do text messaging?
Yeah, we can definitely add that flag in.
So
there.
just something as we look at changing. I mean, like I said, we're not going to upend everything today. And, right, yeah, it means like a little tone, but that'd be even worse.
Yeah, the thing we'll have to pay attention to with that approach is maybe we make it a checkbox. Do you prefer text or a page? Because some people may not have a cell phone.
It's true.
So
It's true. So it's not just
we'll
just
do
a
our best to
direction,
accommodate
as
everybody
we
there.
as
Yep.
we implement further, and before we roll this out live, we'll do more hands-on training with the people that are going to be using it. Because I think one of the things that we've identified from the previous system is that just people didn't know how to use it. And so the fact that nobody knew how to use it or nobody was trained how to use it really made it awkward, because you got parents coming up and you got people who, like I had that experience when we were here in February. We're in February or March? March. We were here in March, and we came to a service, and I was standing in the nursery area, and a parent came up with a kid, and I had no clue what the process is, but I'm a kidmin guy. I want to help this parent. I want to talk to the kid, and I'm like, okay, I think this is what you do, and I had no idea, and he was looking at me like, these people are so unorganized, like they have no clue. He didn't know that I'd never been here before, but it was just one of those things where if the workers don't know the process, it's really, really negative for the people coming up to the counter. So we need to, one of the things we're committed to is training. As we add computer technology, as we add new systems, we're committing to train every single person that even might be in connection with it. So even if you're not your primary job, we will offer you the training too, just like we do everyone else, so that you can know if they step away for a reason, you can step in, because it's really not super complicated. I mean, the system is designed to be as user-friendly as possible. But, for those, we'll definitely offer training as we go forward too, right?
Yep, definitely. And I think the approach too will be, we'll release it in stages. We definitely don't want a computer just to show up and everybody be like, hey, how do we use this thing? But we also realize that to have every single feature that we want on day one probably isn't realistic either. So we'll make improvements. We won't take any steps backwards. So whatever we roll out today won't be a step backwards from what we've had in the past. But we'll move forwards. So things like the security and medical alerts, we haven't done that traditionally, but that's something that we'll add in. Will it be ready on day one with this system? I don't know. We'll strive for it. But along those lines, some of the other parts of the vision too are, I would like to see some kind of computer or tablet in each of the rooms that does have a list of those special needs, allergy alerts, that sort of thing. So as a volunteer, even if you don't know how to use the system, you can go look at the screen and say, oh yes, this child is allergic to bee stings. They were just stung. We need to take action immediately, sort of thing. So, are there any other questions along these lines? If I bored you all to sleep?
Is there any way where you can go in on your own, not through the system here, and update your information, say,
Yep.
compared to the paper?
Yep. So the question was, are you able to go in on your own and update the information? And the answer is yes, eventually. Part of this is we're also moving towards a new website. I don't know how many people have actually seen this.
Ooh, bonus demo right here.
Bonus material. Let's see if I can get it to work. So we've actually been working on this for a while. It's still in progress, like right here. Right now I don't have an image. But this, the theory here is that this image will rotate through. It'll tie in with the graphics that we use on our weekly bulletins, that sort of thing. Any new events, advertisements will rotate through here. I've got an awesome pick a check at the bottom. But basically, there will be a login screen, a login button up over here, and you'll be able to log into our website, and from there you'll be able to do things like update your own information. We're looking at releasing things like event registrations, all online based. We can go to digital tickets. Online giving is coming in a much more secure and easy fashion. We're looking to really enable people to keep their own profiles up to date. And the office staff, there's a whole back end of the system where now if, like for Pastor Jim with his life groups, he'll build out these life group structures in the back end and be able to communicate with groups directly with the press of a couple buttons, and it will hit everybody in the group. We can also start doing things like attendance for life groups for the overall church. As part of the check-in process for the youth, attendance is taken as part of that. So we'll be able to start running some reports to be like, hey, the Patterson family really hasn't been here for the past 3 weeks. What's going on? And that can trigger off another automated workflow for us to reach out and follow up. So that's kind of, the youth piece is a small piece of the larger overall puzzle that we're looking to solve with technology within our church.
Right on. Well, thanks, Tim. We definitely appreciate you doing all the work that you do and being willing to present for us. I just want to give you guys a taste kind of what it's going to look like as we go forward. And something that we're committed to is being a church that people who don't go to church feel okay at, feel comfortable at when they come in. And part of that is safety and security. And it is the one thing that churches drop the ball on across the country is security for the kids. They just assume that people will be okay. They assume that the workers are okay. They assume that kids will be safe and do what they're supposed to do. They assume that no one's going to come nab a kid from a church service. And those assumptions are very, very bad. And they're very, very wrong, because there are people who prey on churches because it's easy to get to kids. That's why we do CAP training. That's why we do check-in systems. It's why we keep track of our kids. It's why eventually you're going to be locked out of kids' ministry areas if you're not supposed to be in there, like with physically locking doors. It's not because we don't want you around the kids. It's because we don't want other people who want to hurt the kids around the kids. And we have to control the environments. So as we progress, you're going to see changes. You're going to see rooms move place to place. We're not 100% sure where we're going to land for Kids4Christ yet. We'll probably start in the same spot, but as we grow, the functionality of the church is going to change. Rooms that were previously multi-use, they might not be multi-use anymore, right? So as a church, we're going to have to be flexible. That big word that nobody likes, but is so important. Are we going to be flexible? So is there any questions, just general oversight? Yes, ma'am. Wednesday evenings. Like we said, we're going to ease into this. So Wednesday evenings will stay the same they are for now. I have yet to experience a Wednesday evening, so I honestly have no clue what it looks like, other than just the bits and pieces that I've been told about. I've never actually been to one. So as I get a feel for that, and we together as a team kind of analyze, and we talk vision, and we talk, ask the question of how are we reaching out, and how are we connecting families, and those kind of things. We'll probably morph it slowly. There's a lot of people who are looking for us to roll out a big program. We might do that. We might create our own program. Who knows? What we're focused on is on doing things effectively and reaching out to the community in the best ways we can. And so if it's a big program like Awana Clubs that does that reaches out effectively, that, is a fit for this community, that might be a direction, and maybe it's going to be totally different, something new and unique. Who knows? But for right now, it's going to stay as it is until we get a feel for what it is, so we're not just throwing something into a groove that we don't know how it runs. Any other questions? I like answering questions. We still have 7 minutes. Come on. Yes, ma'am. That's a very good question. That, again, unfortunately, I'm going to have to give you the same answer. We're going to see. If y'all traditionally do break for the summer, then we probably will. If that's not a thing that y'all do, we probably won't, unless we look at leaders and all the leaders are just like, I'm so tired, I need a break, right? Then we might do that. But I would say we're going to do whatever we do until we find out that it's not working. So that's probably going to be the direction on anything that's currently existing. We're going to do what we do until we decide that it doesn't work. but we'll definitely take a look at that. That's a very good question because I hadn't really thought that direction yet. So who else? Someone from this side. Come on, y'all are down 2-0. Fun in the Sun. What is a Fun in the Sun program? Okay. Sounds fun. I think I had heard about it, but I've never really seen it going. I like it. I like community outreach. I think that's a good way to connect kids. I like water games. They're always a good way to connect kids because kids love them. So I would say Fun in the Sun, specifically exactly like it was, it probably won't happen. But a concept like that, will we do missional, like intentional outreach events throughout the summer? Yes. Yes, we will. So now, will they be exactly, a 6-week system of, 1 day a week? I don't know. It's just going to depend on how we get there as a staff and how we're doing, because there's a lot of changing, and, unfortunately, I've got other things that I'm being drawn multiple directions with tech meetings and things like that too. So, part of that is going to depend on how I get in the groove and how we flow as a community. But yeah, eventually we'll definitely get more into that. Yes, ma'am. Oh, she's evening it up all by herself. I sat down in a meeting and Pastor Chuck said, "This is the date." How it was determined prior to that, I have no idea. I want to say yes, because that was an issue that was identified from last year. So I'm going to say the fact that it is different than general in being later in the summer, and that I know for sure we're attempting to partner with another church that's doing the same VBS the week before us to pool resources. So I think if we're that intentional, I'm going to say that yes, we did some intentional looking. But I wasn't here, so I can't say for sure. What else? That's it? We're going to end tied 2-2? Okay, all right. Well, y'all pray with me, guys, and let's get out of here. God, I love you. God, you're incredible. I thank you for who you are. God, I give you praise because you are a God that's worthy of my attention. God, you're worthy of my time and my focus. God, you are holy in a way that I can never imagine. You are amazing. God, you inspire awe inside of people. And that is why we call you an awesome God. God, I pray that you would go with us this week, God, as we get into ministry and we do the things we do. God, I pray that you would give us passion to live life for you. God, I pray that you would bless the people who spent their time being here today, that you would give them energy, God, and give them, God, a rest of the week that's just outstanding. As we jump into this next coming week, God, I pray you would give us, God, favor with our bosses, favor with our community, favor with people that we're trying to reach for your name. God, I pray that you would be with us as we go forward in ministry. God, as we push for the visions that you've given to us. God, I pray that you would help us to be on task, help us to be focused, help us to be patient. God, help us to be consistent. God, you're amazing. I thank you for all the people who have chosen to spend their time here today, God, and for their dedication, God, over years of ministry that I'll never probably understand. God, I pray that you would bless them, God, encourage them, build them up. God, I pray for our transition, God, as Jody and I are trying to settle into a place that's so different. God, with so many things that are going on, God, I pray you would smooth things out. God, that you would help things to, God, just kind of fit in place, God, as you're building this team to move forward. God, we love you. In Jesus' name we pray. Amen. All right, thanks, guys. Our meeting is done at what time? Bam! That's pretty good.